Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the RDH Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chad, joined by the one and only Tanner. How's it going, dude?
It's going pretty well. I just had Taco Bell before this, and I'm stuffed. I'm ready. I've got the brain knowledge of Taco Bell for all these wide receivers.
I'm pretty jealous. I'm going to get sushi, but I really didn't need to hear, you just slam Taco Bell. I'm running on the I am starving, so this one may be a little bit faster than than the last one. But Tanner said it today. We're talking wide receivers. Last episode we hit through 15, and then we had five honorable mentions as well. This time, or 30 through 16, sorry. This time, we're hitting 15 through number one. So we're going to see whose wide receiver is the top number one dog. I think Tanner and I probably both have the same guy. We're not going to give anything away. If you didn't listen to the last episode, I have no idea who's on this list. I made my list. Tanner made his list. I have no clue who's anybody on his list. So that's what makes this fun. We get into 15 through number one today.
I'm ready.
Here we go. Tanner, kick us off with your 15th best receiver this upcoming season.
Well, my number 15, and us Cowboy fans know him very well. He's not a Cowboy anymore, if that gives you any indication who it is. It is Amari Cooper, and he's at number 15. I think this past season, everyone saw kind of how I think dominant a receiver he still is. He didn't really have a quarterback, when he was on the Browns. He had Jacoby Brissett, and he had some iffy quarterback play, to say it the best. And he still got over 1,000 yards. He was still a good fantasy target if you wanted to use him in your lineup. And he still showed that he has a lot left in the tank. And I mean, going into this next season with Deshaun Watson at the helm, you have to look up for him. You have to see the stock going up, the stock rising. His future is in better hands than it was, right? So that's why he's number 15. I think it's respectable. I think when he was on the Cowboys, he was probably a top 10 receiver in the league at least, and I don't think it's crazy to see him fall down to 15.
I mean, I think it's one of those things when you're a number one receiver in this league and you have a quarterback that is like Deshaun Watson, you have to be put into this conversation because if he turns it on to what he did, Houston Texans pre everything that happened, Deshaun's the guy.
Yeah.
Deshaun was a top five quarterback in the league, and his number one wide receiver at the time was DeAndre Hopkins, who is still eating today. But yeah, I mean, every year, Amari Cooper for the Cleveland Browns every year, I'm pretty sure, has gotten over 100 reception or probably 150 targets in Cleveland because who else got the ball other than David Njoku and Nick Chubb out of the backfield? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not going to have really anybody else get the ball there. So Coop's your main guy. And like I said, nobody else in that wide receiver core to me sticks out,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little scary, when you have a guy like Deshaun Watson who really, really needs to lean on his wide receivers for this upcoming season because if he doesn't knock it out of the park this season, track's starting to look really, really bad. But he didn't really play that well last year. Everybody knows it, right? This year, I think he's going to continue to, and I think Coop is going to continue to get better in another sneaky 1,000-yard season like he always does. Now, bringing me back to the point of you talking about him with the Cowboys, Dallas just doesn't utilize their wide receivers like they used to. I think the last time we've seen Dallas utilize a wide receiver like they used to is the jersey I'm wearing right now with Tony Romo and Des Bryant. Back in CD are still not there. You know what I mean? Because CD, there's games where he doesn't get the ball. Like realistically, if you go look last year, like there's games where he did not get the ball until the third quarter. So I even though CD's on this list for me, it's just interesting because Amari Cooper was the clear-cut wide receiver number one in Dallas. Was the number one corner was always on him, and he always got 1,000 yards every season, and he
Yep.
always caught balls in crunch time. So completely agree. He was a little bit or a little bit higher on my list, but my number 15 is Keenan Allen, the wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. You have to give him respect this season because he's coming off of an injury. I think he's really hungry. I think he's really ready, and also it's getting real soon to that contract year. And Mike Williams already has a contract locked up. So the question becomes: does Los Angeles move on from Keenan Allen? I don't think so, right? Because that's his quarterback, Justin Herbert. That's his guy and they have a connection. Even though Mike Williams has come in, you can't tell me that Keenan Allen's still not the number one there.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree, right? He's still I wouldn't say he's in his prime, but he's not far out of it, right? It's like he might have stepped off maybe like like a half step or something like that, but he's still a top receiver I think in the NFL, and you still have to like game plan for him. And I mean, Mike Williams, he's a really good receiver, but like you said, Keenan Allen is Herbert's guy.
Yeah, that's his guy. Who's your number 14?
My number 14, and I'm pretty happy about this. I think last year it's kind of the same simple situation as Amari Cooper. He didn't have a lot of help, but you saw him succeed sometimes, and sometimes he would disappear a little bit, and that's why he's at this spot. But it's DJ Moore, and now he's in Chicago, and I really like DJ Moore. I really hope he succeeds in Chicago, and I think he will because I mean, he's going to get the ball, right? He's their number one receiver. He didn't have a quarterback last season, and he still managed to put up decent numbers, right? Like we talked about before, I think in the last podcast. Go listen to it if you haven't. But he kind of disappears in some games, right? Which you hate to see for a top receiver in the NFL, but I think that's more or less a product of like the Panther system and just him not having any help, right? Everyone's just going to guard him. They know exactly where the ball's going to go every play, right? So it's not always on him, I don't think, but I I don't know. I see this situation in Chicago a lot easier because he's got Chase Claypool. He's got the third receiver that Darnell Mooney, that's his name. And
Yeah.
I mean that's a loaded receiver
They got
receiver core.
They got Cole Kmet too at the tight end position who can
Yes,
step in and
absolutely.
really be that guy right off the line that can give you a little bit of blocking power and also catch the ball, really close to the quarterback and
Mhm.
also kind of throw in a chip there too to give him a little bit more time. DJ Moore off the side. So DJ Moore's a great player. He's once again was higher on my list, but have a player like DJ Moore and he's coming to Chicago. That's a whole different ballgame because AJ Brown, you didn't think AJ Brown was as good he was when he went to the Eagles, right? I mean, he was pretty good at Tennessee, but he was nowhere near what he is now. So
Exactly.
is this
Exactly.
is this the exact same thing that happens in that situation, right? Is that what happens? Who knows? Does his play elevate even more? And with Justin Fields going to be force feeding him the ball, and they've been working already in the offseason, they have been wide receiver one QB. Come on, you know what I mean? And that you said they have a lot of receivers around, and they got Chase Claypool, they got Mooney on the other side. Like I said, they got Cole Kmet, so he has options, right? This isn't like the Panthers where you look around and you're like Robbie Anderson. Yeah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
no disrespect to Robbie, great pickup, in fantasy every now and then if you need him in a week where your wide receivers are all on bye. But
Every now and then.
yeah,
Yeah.
man, yeah, it's one of those things where DJ Moore is absolutely going to come in and transform that offense, and if he doesn't, no, then I got it wrong. You know what I mean? Then he drops out of this list. But I think DJ Moore at fantasy next year is I think he's going to be hyped up a little bit too much, to be honest. I think he's going to be hyped up a little bit too much. I don't think you should take DJ Moore top 10 wide receivers. I think ranking wise, they're probably going to rank him, between 8 and 12. You're right there, right, with like 14, 13. So it's close, but I don't know. One year I got burned when DJ Moore was my number one wide receiver, and I don't ever want to do it again. You know what I mean? But he's a good player, and I completely agree with everything you said. Number 14 for me, we're bringing in some young talent here. Olave, the wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. So, episode you had him a little bit higher on your list, and
Quite a bit. Yeah.
I refrained. I refrained from kind of going. My thing with Chris Olave is that he's had a pretty good around him, right? He's had a pretty solid cast around him. The Saints have a pretty solid defense, meaning that the offense isn't always stuck on the field. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The Saints have Alvin Kamara. And they also have Taysom Hill. So it's one of those things where it's like, and Michael Thomas too. So, it's a pretty nice them to just walk into, and not to mention your quarterback play. Now you got Derek Carr. That's a solid quarterback. Devontae Adams last year. I mean, that was his guy in college at Fresno State, but he ate last year. Devontae Adams ate last year from Derek Carr. So you don't got to worry about that coming into this offense. Derek Carr's going to throw him the ball because Olave's open all the time. And guess what? We still don't know about the Kamara suspension yet. So our suspension happens. I think he bumps up to almost wide receiver top 10 because he is the clear-cut number one. And crazy to think about is that the Ohio State Buckeyes had this guy, Garrett Wilson, Smith, and Jigba on the same receiver core, and then a young kid coming up named Marvin Harrison Jr., who's going to be the top receiver in the draft next year. Mark my words.
Probably. I
Are you
mean,
kidding me?
blood in
Are
that
you
man.
kidding me? That's such a good team, and they're clearly great at developing wide receivers. So that's why I'm throwing Chris Olave up there at 14. Great route runner, like I said, and gonna have a even better season than he did last year.
I think it's fair. I really like him as like a a coming in rookie into the NFL. I like him a lot. He's obviously on my list, and the reason I didn't put him like a lot higher and why I think there's like a big difference is I mean you value young talent a lot more than I do, which is fair. There's nothing wrong with
Absolutely.
that, but I just kind of want to see more of it. I want to see him get more experience, get more reps in the NFL before I make like a solid decision on him. I think I think the highest rookie I have is Garrett Wilson at number 20. Yeah, that I think that's as high as I got. Garrett Wilson at number 20, but that's not a knock on him for being a bad receiver or anything like that. He's still a top 20 receiver in the NFL with a bunch of Hall of Fame players and, number 1 pro receivers. Like I think I just need to see more of him. It's hard for me to put a rookie like in the top 15 or top 12 or anything like that, top 13, whatever. Um,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's me because I'm just, who watches way too much college football and watches way too much tape from all these guys. So I still have all that tape in my head. I mean, so I totally understand that. And yeah, I absolutely value more because the way I kind of look at these wide receivers is not only fantasy numbers, but also if I were to be building a franchise,
yeah,
I'm
of
making the
course.
Madden.
I think absolutely. I mean, if it's like absolutely. I wouldn't discount any of their talent for anything. It's just I want more. I want to see more because how many times have you seen like a rookie receiver come out and ball and then just not show up the second year or third year? You know, like it's a sophomore slump. It has a name for a reason, right? That's why. That's kind of why I'm like hesitant. But hey, if they do it twice,
You
2 years
need,
in a row, come on, come on. I'm Chris
yeah,
Olave all the way.
then you're absolutely jumping it up to the list. So I'll go ahead and give my 13. My 13 is Amon-Ra St. Brown, the wide receiver out of the Detroit Lions. Move him in this list a little bit. I wanted to stick him between 15 and 20. Went back and actually looked at his numbers, and yes, I may have got lost in a couple rabbit hole videos with him as well, with watching his highlights. But nice,
Yeah.
he's really nice, and
Hmm.
he was realistically not the only option, but kind of sort of the only option when T.J. Hawkinson left there. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift wasn't necessarily playing his best football at the end of the season last year, so. And I think you have to put him up there. He is very young, though. He's extremely young. He's only been in the league for only a couple years. That's Jared Goff's guy, and for some reason, remind me of Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett. I don't know why. Just the deep ball that Jared Goff throws to him, it doesn't have as much, pepper as Russ's used to have and that hang time that Russ used to have. But every time Brown comes down with it in the weirdest, wildest catches. You know what I mean? The only
Yeah.
other player that I can think that did that is Tyler Lockett. So, man, I think he's got a heck of a future. He's got a massive contract coming his way, and Jameson Williams is going to come back after suspension and add a lot of speed. So the safeties are going to have to start worrying about that when he gets back going to it. So I think this season, toward the end of the year, he's gonna be going off for sure.
Oh yeah. I completely agree. I mean, I talked about in the last episode. He's like exactly like you said. He's the only option in Detroit, and he's making plays, and that's the thing you see is like sometimes you see like a DJ Moore disappear because, he's getting double covered and he's getting, absolutely smothered with coverage and stuff like that. But this guy just keeps seeming to like get open. He keeps seeming to become that number one with like minimal help from the other receivers. There's not a lot of other places you could go with the ball. I would say if you're Jared Goff, but I mean he still finds them. He's still open. He gets points on the field and he makes conversions and it's really impressive. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's your 13?
My number 13 is we talked about him a little bit, and I really like him, and I think it's a great segue from the last player. It's Terry McLaurin. I think he's had absolutely almost no help throughout his entire career in Washington, and he has been one of I mean, I would say a premier receiver in the NFL. He's a number one. You cannot deny that, and he will be a number one probably for the rest of his career. And who has been throwing him the ball? Like Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz, Dwayne Haskins. Like, come on, there's nobody. These guys are struggling for NFL contracts on this team, and that's saying a lot. But he just keeps doing it. He just keeps getting these crazy balls. And I mentioned a stat the other podcast, but it's like when the ball is thrown to him, it's like 104 passer rating or something like that. And it's just like that's a stupid stat. Like, come on, like what? He just
Ridiculous.
makes these catches and makes his quarterback better just by being a receiver, and that's really hard to do, especially when you're on the Washington Commanders. I got a lot of respect for him, and I mean, I got to rank him high. He's in the division. I see him twice a year.
I mean, we've been seeing him for a long time. You know what I mean? And he usually gets a touchdown a game on us. And
Yep.
usually everybody in the division he gets a touchdown a game on. And the crazy thing is about a true number one wide receiver is they're a number one wide receiver. Even if they double cover you, even if they chop you off the line, he's still going to get his. Yes, there are games where he has, 6 catches for 54 yards. But if you look at the targets, it's like 12 targets. You know what I mean? It's not like one of those wide receivers where it's like, oh, he only had 4 targets. He had 2 catches. You know what I mean? You're never that the dude's going to get at least 10 targets a game, no matter what. And the thing I love about Washington, the way they do, is they utilize him in the screen game a lot. And they also put him in the backfield every now and then just as a kind of a decoy. I like having him as the option on a triple option play. You know what I mean? I don't know why they thought that would work with Taylor Heineke, but hey, you know what I mean? For me, fantasy wise,
Whatever.
I'm totally cool with. Yeah, I'm totally cool with it. But Terry for a reason, right? He's a wide receiver number one, like you said, on any NFL team, and many teams would want him, including my team. But going to my number 12, DK Metcalf for the Seattle Seahawks. I've talked about DK so much. You know what I mean? He is the ideal body size of a wide receiver, and he can also run fast. It just doesn't make sense, right? He kind of defies physics with what he does. At the wide receiver position, I would compare him to like a Myles Garrett athletically. At the defensive end position. They're just so athletic. Understand how they're so athletic. And you look at DK Metcalf, and he literally looks like a part-time bodybuilder. The dude's old. And he has one of the best elevations in the game to go up and get the rock. He literally looks like he levitates for like half a second, and he does it every single time against no matter who the corner is. I've watched him and Jalen go to wars back when Jalen Ramsey was prime Jalen Ramsey. You know what I mean? I'm not saying Jalen's out of his prime yet. I still think Jalen Ramsey is a top 10 corner, but I don't think that old Jalen Ramsey was one of the nastiest corners I'd see in the league since Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he comes out swinging. And DK, yes, they had battles, and yes, DK lost some of those battles, but still there in Seattle. And if you can be a number one wide receiver with multiple quarterbacks, and not to mention the quarterback that came in had nobody thought Geno was going to do as good as he was going to do. Why was that? Because of DK Metcalf, Lockett. Those were two massive reasons why that elevated his play, and DK elevates everybody around him, including Tyler Lockett. So, Cat, loved watching him in college. Couldn't believe he stayed as long as he did in the draft, but Carroll knows how to draft him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say about this player because he's so good. Like, DK Metcalf is probably one of the most fun players to watch if you just turn on the TV on any given Sunday, right? He's just a freak athlete. Like, there's no reason he should be as big and as fast as he is. He's just like, he just makes it look easy. When he goes up for the ball, it almost looks like he's like a toy, and it almost looks like you kind of like place him in like this one position, and then he just goes up. It's like he doesn't even. It doesn't look like he jumps. He just has like these rocket boots, and he just boosts up and he catches the ball and comes back down. That's the best way I can describe how he catches the ball in the air. And the cornerback's all on him, and he just doesn't care. It's just like, all right, whatever. And he catches the ball. It looks like he's running routes without anybody covering him. It really is amazing. He's so good.
He's so big. It's like when you see him open in the field, you're like,
I know.
How is he open? Like, how is he open? But then you watch him running. You watch him off the line, and the corner tried to press him, and the corner's on the ground.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
too. There's so many different things that he can do with his game. I love this wide receiver, and honestly, one more year with him and Geno, going to be top 10 for me.
I mean, if you were to make a list of strongest receivers, he's probably number one.
In ideal body type, if you're making if you're making a prototypical wide receiver, type is him. You know what I mean? Hands, DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know if you're going to get better hands
Yeah.
than DeAndre Hopkins. You know what I mean? Uh, route running ability, I would almost want to put like a I don't want to put like a Mari Cooper there or like a Garrett Wilson. I want to get a little crazy. I want to go Justin Jefferson. You know what I mean? I
I
want
mean, yeah,
because
fair
he's just
enough.
always open randomly.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know if you're building a prototypical wide receiver, DK's in there in every single expert. So that is enough on DK. Who do you got number 12, Tanner?
My number 12, and this might be one of the biggest gaps in our list. I I still got respect for him, and I think it's great. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially once I say his name. You're gonna go crazy. It's DeAndre Hopkins. He's at my number
Yeah.
12. You
Yeah.
thing about it is he hasn't played in a little bit, but when he has played, you have seen the Arizona Cardinals elevate to a new level. Especially when you watch them in that 2020 season or 2021, whenever it was. I think it was 2020, and they rattled off like 8 wins in a row. They had a bad back half of the season, but I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was involved in every single play. He was the reason they were succeeding, right? That was Kyler Murray's guy. And when they were off the field, and that's when the issues started coming, and then like the PEDs and stuff like that, and he got injured, and there's a lot of other stuff that contributed to it. I still think if he were to get on the NFL field right now, he would be a top target. I absolutely think so because I mean, he just has like this physical, natural ability to, like you said, he has these amazing hands to go up and get the ball. His catching is, I would say, probably the best in the NFL, like we were talking about. I mean, how many of those Hail Marys did you see him just catch like in the middle of like a pile of 7 dudes? And he's just like, mine, touchdown, easy. I think DeAndre Hopkins still has a lot left in the tank. It's not like an Odell Beckham situation where he's gone through 2 like ACL tears and he doesn't have it left. I mean, I don't know if he does. From what I've seen, probably not. But I think he could still be a number one. I absolutely do. I mean, nothing has shown me that he can't. There's no evidence, pointing against it. There's just none also pointing towards it. So that's why it's a hard position to be in. But I think he's still good. I think he's still going to put up big numbers. And especially if you give him the chance on a good team, hopefully he goes to one with a good quarterback, he's going to be nasty. He's going to be nasty.
And I can't disagree. I've been watching Hop for since Clemson days. Back when, oh my gosh, of course the quarterback's name completely slipped my mind. It'll come to me. But I remember watching Hop at Clemson days, man, and he has done the same thing. You know what I mean? He dominated kids in college, and he's dominating, looks like children at times
Yeah.
in the NFL. You know what I mean? And the thing with Hopkins that separates him from everybody else is exactly what you said. He has literal clamps for hands.
Mm-hmm.
If you throw him the ball in, or magnets for hands, if you throw him the ball in his general direction, it's almost like legit magnets, just poof every time, and he catches it. Contested catches, wide open catches. Like if DeAndre Hopkins drops a ball, legitimately hear the in the stadium. You
Yeah.
literally hear that, and I can say I've heard it before because I've partaked in it. When I've watched him drop a ball when he used to play the Cowboys, it's like what, and you can hear it. It's crazy. And when everybody knows his hands are that good, you can't argue. But my thing is, if you're a free agent, you've been a free agent for this long, and not a single team has signed you, and a lot of teams need wide receiver help. There has to be something else.
There
Like
might be. Yeah.
this to me almost makes me think of the Earl Thomas situation.
Yeah. I mean,
Earl Thomas when he was
I was going to say, what about Dalvin Cook, though? I mean, I would say he's probably a really good athlete, and he hasn't been signed yet.
same. And I didn't think Zeke was really, I mean, I knew he lost a step, but he's still out there too. There's a lot of teams that's
Mm-hmm.
still there. Now, what happens is these guys get picked up literally like right before training camp starts. Or sorry, literally right before the preseason starts, because you'll have these injuries coming out of training camp, and you'll have injuries coming out of preseason and everything, and then you'll have a guy that you thought you liked in training camp, and it goes to preseason. Actually, you don't really like the guy that much. You know what I mean, coaching wise, about these players. So you never know what's going to happen. It's hard with Dalvin Cook, Zeke, and DeAndre Hopkins, and all of the other free agents that are still out there. You don't understand why, but it is contract time, right? A lot of these guys are trying to get paid before the upcoming season, so
Mm-hmm.
you gotta deal with that. Then you can go sign some help after that. But I mean, it's DeAndre Hopkins, man.
Right.
That's top in the league. So that is the biggest discrepancy in our list. But So it makes these things fun.
Heck yeah.
Go ahead and go with your number 11 because we're going to talk for a while about my number 11, I think.
Okay.
This might be the biggest one, the next biggest discrepancy on our lists right here.
My number 11 is Jalen Waddle, and the only reason he's not higher is because his teammate is better than him, which is insane. Tyreek Hill is amazing, but Jalen Waddle is still also amazing. I mean, he's so fast. He just gets the ball. Tyreek Hill on this team, the Dolphins, makes Jalen Waddle look like a 6-year-old. And that's insane to say because he's Jalen Waddle as it is any other team. He's probably that number one wide receiver, you would say, right? I mean, he's like Tyreek 2.0. He just hasn't has the experience in the NFL, but he's making these catches. He's an amazing option in fantasy if you haven't used him yet. He gets the ball probably as much as Tyreek or maybe a little bit less, but like he's a number one, and they have a 1A and 1B on that team. It's amazing. I love Jalen Waddle, and I really hope. I mean, he gets his own spotlight soon. I think he's gonna break some boundaries if you keep letting him do what he's doing.
And contract, is going to come up a little pretty soon, like very, very soon. That's the big question mark I have. How much is he going to get paid? How much do they value a Jalen Waddle? Because you're right, he is a wide receiver number 2 to Tyreek Hill. He's not a wide receiver number 1. But the thing is with Tyreek Hill is that he's the fastest player in the NFL. So you have to have 2 guys on him at all times, which opens it up for Jalen Waddle. But you also have to have safety help on Jalen Waddle because also the fast. Like these are the 2 fastest like receivers league, and arguably the fastest wide receiver core of all time. Of all time,
these guys are fast,
and they're on the same team. You want a quarterback here Tua on his deep ball, but man, you want a quarterback who just has a deep ball because that's why Tyreek Hill does. He literally would throw Tyreek open because he would just outrun the corner because he's just a little bit not a little bit faster. He's way faster.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He burns corners in the NFL, which is crazy to think he's burning the best in the world at that position. That's insane. But Waddle does the exact same thing, and guess who he's learning from? He's only going to get better, and that Dolphins team is only getting better too. So Jalen Waddle is absolutely a wide receiver 1 on many teams, and now that I think about it, take back Devontae Smith being the best wide receiver 2 in the league. Jalen Waddle has to be the best wide receiver 2 in the league.
It's close,
completely, man. It is really close, but dude, Jalen Waddle brings that speed.
Yeah, he does.
That Devontae Smith doesn't have, but Devontae Smith also brings running ability that Jalen Waddle does not have because Jalen Waddle is not the best route runner. That is what I want to see him improve on. If he improves on his route running, oh Lord, you know what I mean? He's gonna continue to eat. But hey, talk about Tyreek Hill a little bit later.
He's coming up.
My number 11. This is a pretty big discrepancy in our list. I have Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver out of the New York Jets, my number 11.
I'm not surprised.
Here's my thing. If you don't believe me that I've watched the tape, go to rdhsports.net. We've got all of our articles, all of our past articles. Reach out to us on Twitter too. I've got the articles. I can send them your way. Aaron's throwing to him.
I know.
When you're Aaron's number 1 wide receiver, you're going to get at least 1,300 yards and over 150 targets in a season. Just look at Devontae Adams. Look at Randall Cobb. If you just look at Jordy Nelson, if you just look at what he did with Christian Watson, it's over. And there's nobody else on that team that even gets close to Garrett Wilson's route running ability and hands and quickness off the line. There's no other guys on that team that can do that. And you've already been seeing the training camp videos with him going long. He didn't do a lot of that, folks, because Zach Wilson can't hit a ball if it was right in front of him. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I get it. He's young, and this is one of those receivers that I am absolutely projecting because of Aaron Rodgers. I can tell you right now, if Aaron Rodgers wasn't on the team, he would have only been down about 3 spots because I would have put him right there above Chris Olave. But Aaron Rodgers gives him that 4-step leap coming into this upcoming season. And like I said, I love his route running. He's one of the best route runners, and it's an underutilized strength in this league. So I'm a really big fan of the route running ability because guys like Amari Cooper have gotten how many 1,000-yard seasons?
Yeah, I don't dislike it at all. I think Garrett Wilson is really good. Obviously we talked about it. The only reason I didn't put him higher, I think I put him at like 20. Yeah, number 20. That's still really good for a young receiver, right? But the only reason I didn't put him any higher is because, of course I need to see it again. And I think it's going to happen again. I don't dislike him at 11 at all, just because, like you said, with Aaron Rodgers, it's almost like a certain that's going to happen. Like he will get his targets and he will get the ball. Aaron Rodgers is going to get Garrett Wilson the ball unless something crazy happens, like we saw with Russ when he went over to Denver, right? I don't think that's going to happen with Aaron, but I think this is probably the safest rookie receiver out there. In terms of like production going into this season, absolutely, I completely agree. He's going to be a number one, and he's probably going to be a number one as long as Aaron Rodgers is there. I don't disagree with it at all, honestly.
I can't wait to see Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave sophomore season. I can't wait to see it. You know what I mean?
Ohio
I
State.
can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it, man. Who actually? Let me go with my number 10 because we just got done talking about him, Jalen Waddle.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I hadn't said him yet. He's an absolute top 10 player because you have to put him there, right? If Tyreek Hill was not next to him, maybe he's not number 10. You know what I mean? I still think he's in the top 30 for sure. Maybe not 10, but like I said a second ago, Tyreek Hill takes all the attention off of him. So happens you're mostly the wide open wide receiver too. Oh, and guess what? He's really freaking fast. So Tanner,
Yeah.
who's your number 10?
My number 10, we just talked about him as well. You're going to find that happening a lot more in these top 10 conversations, but it's DK Metcalf. I won't go too hard. I won't beat this drum too hard, but he's really good. I think he's a top 10 receiver. The only reason I think we probably have him kind of switched around, DK and Jalen. I just think DK is just a freak. I mean, he's just an absolute monster. I mean, that draft photo with him going like boom, like with his fucking chest out, that's ridiculous. I mean, he looked like
I
a.
still remember when Pete Carroll took his shirt off when they drafted him.
I know.
It's like one of the all-time best draft moments, right behind Bill Belichick's dog.
Sitting there.
That was the best. Yes, the war room went to Bill Belichick's house, and it was just the dog sitting there with everything. That was awesome. Anyway, keep going about DK.
We talked about him. I mean, it's DK. It's DK Metcalf. If you don't have him in the top 10 or at least near the top 10, I mean, your list probably isn't very good, right?
Crazy. Number nine. Number 9 is Brown, the Philadelphia Eagle. I know. I got a little bit of heat episode for not including AJ Brown. Everybody that's listening, guess what? We 15-1 today. He was just you should have to wait a week. That's all. I didn't leave him off the list. AJ Brown, like I said not a second ago, a couple minutes ago, he came from Tennessee. He was not the best wide receiver, not a top 10 wide receiver in the league. I don't really think anybody can argue that point. I don't think you can say AJ Brown was a top 10 wide receiver coming out of Tennessee. I really don't. And for Philly this past season. Oh yeah, if you don't have him in the top 10, have not been watching any Philadelphia Eagles games because guy not only elevated the play of everybody around him, it was a very odd pairing going into the season. Jalen Hurts, you're not sure if Jalen Hurts is going to have the season that he's going to have. They're not sure if he's going to be the guy. AJ Brown coming over from Tennessee. The Eagles have always needed a wide receiver. Devontae Smith, you know what I mean? That's the through and through. Dallas Goedert, right? The line gets better. The defense is good. We should have looked at the stars. Should have just looked at the roster of the Philadelphia Eagles and been like, yeah, they're probably going to take the division this season. You know what I mean? You probably should have just looked at it last year because, like I just said, and like the drum that I've been beating forever, Philadelphia is a wide receiver away. Washington is a quarterback away. Really got their guy. Right? That's why he's in the top 10. That's why they made it to the Super Bowl. And that's why he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver again next season. Oh, yeah. And like we said, Devontae Smith is his wide receiver number 2, who's going to literally catch eyes how crisp his route running is.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? AJ Brown, right last season, was the best and get it catcher in the league. I'm sorry, Mike Williams. I'm sorry, Devontae Adams. It wasn't even close. He went up and got the ball. Mike Evans, you know what I mean? That Mike Evans patented that almost. AJ Brown, man, what a player and so fun to watch.
Yeah, very fun. I mean, I don't know what Ole Miss is doing out there. I think he went to Ole Miss, right? And they produce him and DK. Like, what? Come on, it's impressive. It really is. I mean, especially in terms of like a level of like confidence. I mean, imagine how he's feeling in that moment, like when he's getting traded from the Titans for being, mediocre, I would say. He had like a good rookie season. That was probably about it. And then they didn't pay attention to him. And then his confidence probably took a dip. And then he got to Philly. And honestly, I mean, looking at it, you were talking about it, it kind of draws some comparisons. It's a lot of like, Jalen Hurts is the fans are unsure about him, unsure about his play, unsure what he can do in that position as a quarterback, and it's a lot of the same thing for AJ Brown when he was on the Titans. Is he the number one guy? Like we drafted him decently high. I mean, I don't think it was first round. I think it was second round. But it's
Jalen Hurts.
Both AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. But
Yeah, there were two.
I think they were both too. But yeah, there's honestly there's no confidence in his game probably at that point, and he comes over to this new team, a new place, and I think he just revitalized it. I think if they don't have AJ Brown this season, they're probably not in the Super Bowl. I mean, he was probably the biggest offseason pickup, just period, in terms of the NFL last year.
I don't think they win the division without him.
Probably
I really
not.
don't. I really don't think they win the division. That dude had like multiple 200+ yard games. I know for a fact he had one. I'm not sure if he had two or three, but it seemed like he did. If he didn't have another one after that, he had 150 plus. You know what I mean? And when you're putting up that kind of numbers, also going to a team like you just said with a quarterback who is, yeah, right. Like coming from Ryan Tannehill or Jalen Hurts, you're like, well, accuracy wise, I don't know. You know what I mean?
There was a lot of question marks. Yeah.
Yeah, up until the upcoming season. Then this season happened, and everybody went, okay, that's this guy. That's this guy now.
Yeah. I absolutely. I mean, AJ Brown is a menace.
Yeah, absolutely is. Jumping to number. Is your number? Have you done your number 9?
No, I haven't. I will do my number 9. Someone we actually haven't talked about yet, which is kind of cool. Deebo Samuel. He's my number 9, and top 10. He deserves a spot, and for all the right reasons. I really like the thing I really like about him is just he's so versatile. You can do a lot of things with Deebo. I mean, look back at the past couple seasons. He's played running back. He's played in the slot. He's played out wide. You can stick him anywhere. You could probably stick him on offensive line, and he'd do it. I don't know if he's big enough, but he's just a really all around great player. There's nothing like wrong about his game. He kind of reminds me of like that Cordero Patterson kind of player, and especially in the new age. It kind of sucks. I wish he stayed a little bit more at running back. I know why he didn't, just based on the longevity of that position, but I just think it's really cool that you can put him anywhere. I mean, imagine like the two back sets that they would have, in quotation marks if you're listening. Like, you don't know where the ball is going, especially, seeing who they have on that offense now in Christian McCaffrey. They could line him up back there. They could line Deebo back there. You don't know who's going to get the ball on any given play. I mean, I think it's just so useful if you're running like an NFL style offense, which they are. Kyle Shanahan's very smart, and he has made Deebo what he is, which is a menace, another menace.
Kyle Shanahan is a wizard, Harry.
He's a wizard.
He is an absolute wizard. There is that offense that he runs there. I've seen Brandon Ayuk go on jet sweeps for 40 yards, and I'm like, where was Brandon Ayuk? I didn't even see him get the ball. You know what I mean? Like that offense that he calls is tight, dude. That's a great offense, and he utilizes every single one of his weapons, which Dallas has not done a very good job of in the most recent years with Jason Witten and Dez. Oh yeah, they did, but not in the most recent years. But yeah, I mean, really hard to not have a guy that can play running back, fullback, and line up at deep and in the slot, the wide receiver position. He lines up anywhere, and he probably plays better in the slot, I would say. But at the same time, if you get him time and space in deep, if you're on zone and you're not right up on him coming off the line, good luck, because he's going to burn you. And guess what? When he gets the ball, he's a running back. He's going to truck you. He's going to juke you. You know what I mean? It's a player. He's ranked a little bit lower on my list, but player to me, that is the best player that plays two positions in the entire league. And he was the for his contract for me was like for Christmas because I was like, what is he going to get? Receiver and a running back, and he's the best one in the league. Oh, and he's young. You know what I mean? This is back when they didn't have Christian McCaffrey, right? If they had Christian McCaffrey at the time, probably would have been a little bit less because they know he's not going to jump back in the running back as much as he did. But when your top running back goes out, throw your top wide receiver back there, and he does that good. That's pretty fun. You know what I mean? And that's going to get you not only on this list, but get you in the top 10 because of your utilization and how great you are at these other positions. Going to my number 8, wore the jersey for a reason. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. Number 8, more can you say about a guy that just has that? I think that's the best way I can describe CD's game as that. And so the theme of this episode is elevating the play around you. No. If everybody around CD Lamb, the wide receiver 4s, the wide receiver 5, the wide receiver 6s, the wide receiver 7s at times that have been signed over the past couple seasons, past 3 years that you've seen since he's been in here, look up that statistic. You know what I mean? How many guys has been traded or is starting on another team right now since CD has come into the league? Like, Noah Brown went away. At least 2 wide receivers every single season get taken since CD's been in the league, and he's elevated their play, and those receivers have not been nearly as good left.
Yeah.
Right? Even no matter what, because CD not only generates incredible amount of offense, but generates an incredible amount of eyes. That is what you want to do, because on the offensive side of the ball, if a defensive guy's looking at you when he's not supposed to be, your teammate's open. He's already won that play. And CD, I think, does that more than any wide receiver in the league. Yes, wide receiver in the league, I think he gets his guys open more than anyone, because here's the thing. Times where Dak cannot hit the broadside of a barn. He can't. He can't hit a slant, hit a curl. He can't hit anything. CD catch some of these balls that Dak throws that there's no way. Them. Not only does he catch him, he catches them and he rips it for 30. But he does it multiple times. That's the other thing about CeeDee Lamb is his rack ability, his run after catch ability. Another probably top 3 maybe in the league at running after the catch, right? There's not realistically Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks. You can't put those guys up. No disrespect, no offense. You can't put them up in the top wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3s in the league. The ball's going to CeeDee Lamb. It is. He gets it done every single time.
Yeah. So. I completely agree. I completely agree so much that he's also my number 8, CeeDee Lamb is. So, I mean, it's pretty fitting. There's 2 8s. Number 88, I think it's perfect. But CeeDee Lamb, there's just like there's a lot of expectation on his shoulders, and I think he's handled it very well, especially, given how short he's been in the NFL. I mean, he's learned from a lot of really good guys, like we said, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup has taught him a lot of things too since he's been here, and he's just, probably exceeded expectations as much as, his first couple of years have been concerned. Now, we've seen what he can do. We want a little bit more now, but he's just exciting. There's probably not a better word to describe him. He's just really exciting. Sometimes he just makes these insane catches, like the one you saw in the Minnesota game with Cooper Rush playing on Sunday Night Football. I know you're thinking about it. That was an amazing catch. And he has these abilities. I don't know. He just does things like that. It's insane. But he has these just like otherworldly abilities. I mean, that's just what these receivers in the top 10, they just all kind of possess this ability to go up and catch the ball at weird angles and at weird inclines. And CeeDee Lamb probably does it. Probably the best, not the best, but maybe top 3 out of all the receivers in the NFL. He's got great hands, and I think the only thing that's holding him back is why he's not higher. Is there's just like sometimes he just messes up. Sometimes he messes up his route. Sometimes he just like overruns it. There's drops.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm pointing my hand, dude. Those drops. You know how many drops have killed drives?
Yeah,
a lot of CD drops.
Yeah. And that's something he needs to work on. There's obviously, I mean, he had a really good season. There's nothing else to say. He had an amazing season as his first season as the number one, technically in Dallas, really, and I think it takes him a little while to get acclimated, and that's fine. Dallas is going to stick with him for a long time. I really hope they do because he's probably the best target they've had out there since Dez. No offense to Amari Cooper, but you disappeared at times, and CD, he started to disappear at times, but then he started to come on in this latter half of the season. You didn't see him really go away from the ball ever. He was solidified as Dak's number one and Dak's absolute favorite target, and I think it's going to continue. I mean, there's no reason to think not.
Absolutely right. And this is Dak's best friend.
Yes.
Can throw up the ball and CD will go up and get the ball. And it's crazy because when you look at his body frame, when you look at him coming out of Oklahoma, you know what I mean? Number one wide receiver in that draft. That's why I did a victory lap whenever we drafted him. But Lamb, man, that body, you just wouldn't that he would be able to do the things that he does. But man, he is so fun to watch. And you and I are fortunate enough that we've seen so many games of him in person.
Mm-hmm.
And even, kind of sort of celebrated a touchdown with him at one time when we lost to Cleveland in the COVID game. That was cool.
That was fun.
Jumping to number 7, I'm just going to go ahead and do it because you just talked about him, Deebo Samuel. You know what I mean? Quick. Once again, if you play multiple positions, you're going to be in the top 10 at a very, very, very high level too. It's not him and Cordell are the best in the league. Like Tanner said, him and Cordell are the best in the league. After this season, I think you're going to put Cordell down. He's going to jump out of that too, and I think you're going to put his counterpart, Bijan Robinson, up there because I think Bijan Robinson is the exact same player as Deebo Samuel without the route running ability because Deebo Samuel did not have the best route running ability. Now, I don't think Bijan will ever get up to the route running ability that Deebo Samuel has because he's a wide receiver first and not a running back first. But look out. You know what I mean? Look out for these. These guys are making new paths in the NFL, just like Taysom Hill did before them, right? Except Taysom Hill decided he wanted to play quarterback and also destroy you on the kick return. So that was awesome. But you can't not put him in the top 10. Who is your number 7?
My number 7, I think we actually switched our number 7s and number 9s because you have Deebo at number 7 and A.J. Brown at number 9, right? Okay, well, I have A.J. Brown at number 7, and you have Deebo at 9, and I have Deebo at 9. So we just switched those two, and then CD is in the middle, just like a sandwich, But A.J. Brown is my number 7, and he's really good. We talked about him. There's probably not anything left to say about him. I mean, he's probably gonna be in Philly for a long time. He's probably gonna get a lot of yards there. That's pretty much it.
Who's your number 6? Go ahead, because you didn't really get an explanation on that one.
I mean, it's A.J. Brown. We talked about him. He's amazing. But my number 6 is Ja'Marr Chase. He is number 6 on my list. And
wow.
Okay.
I
think this was literally the highest I could put him. I tried to put him higher, but I just couldn't. There's too many other good receivers in the NFL that deserve a lot more respect than him. No offense, Ja'Marr Chase, but you've been here for not a long time, and he kind of had not a bad season. He would have gotten more yards and more, stats and all that kind of stuff this season if he hadn't, had some injuries and stuff like that. But I mean, he's really good. It's Joe Burrow's target. I mean, he stepped into the NFL and he set the Bengals rookie receiving record or whatever it is. I think it's just actually just receiving record, no rookie in front of it. I think this is the best receiver that they've ever had, and he's already showing it. The Bengals, they got a good one, and Joe Burrow, he's also a pretty good one, and those two are going to be there for a long time. Ja'Marr Chase just has he's one of those, he's kind of like Dez in the way that he always lines up on the outside, and he always goes up and gets the ball, and he makes these catches in the end zone, and you just throw to him down the field. But he also has the ability to play in the slot, and he can make these contested catches short, and he has amazing hands, and he's top 6 for a reason. I love Ja'Marr Chase. He's amazing.
Absolutely. If I were to start a franchise today, he would be my number 2 player on the list, but just talking fantasy terms and completely agreeing with what you're saying, he was also my number 6 on the list because it's really hard to not put a guy or to put a guy higher than number 6 because yes, he's only had a couple seasons in the NFL. Realistically, one of those seasons, Joe Burrow had a couple, injuries, some hiccups. You know what I mean? One of those seasons, he was getting sacked an unbelievable amount most of the NFL. At times, Ja'Marr Chase isn't the number one option there. Tyler Boyd, and you have,
T.
oh my
Higgins.
gosh, who's slipping my mind?
T. Higgins.
Higgins, thank you. Higgins. Those guys are number 2 on any team in the NFL. So when you have one of them as your number 3 and Jamar's taking a little bit, but or to get going. But at the same time, that's the thing about Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow does throw to his guy, Jamar Chase. Of course he does. But the reason I love Joe Burrow so much and the reason Joe Burrow is such an elite quarterback, top 3 in the NFL, is because he throws to the open receiver. Force feed his guy the ball. But once again, Josh Allen's a top quarterback in the league and he force feeds Stephon Diggs the ball. But hey, you know what I mean? Quarterbacks do
Nobody's
whatever they want to
perfect.
do. And exactly. And Joe Burrow has the number 2 best young wide receiver in this league. Like I said, if I was starting a franchise today, my number 2 player, but on this list, he is number 6. And next season, I think you're probably going to see around the same, if not a give or take, 100 yards either way, maybe a little bit more touchdowns. But did come on toward the end of the season, and he did have a couple of those games that made up for the lack of production in the games before that. So Jamar Chase, another LSU cat, favorite wide receivers in the entire league, and so much fun to watch. But jumping to number 5, I have Stephon Diggs, who I just talked about.
Okay.
So I have to put Stephon Diggs there because guys in front of him that you can't really argue, in my opinion. But Diggs, man, I looked at his numbers. He's got over 7,000 yards. You know what I mean? He's believable what he's done in the NFL, not only but in Minnesota too. I mean, the Minneapolis Miracle, right? Like that's Stephon Diggs. He's been around for a long time, and now he's got a quarterback that can really, really throw him the rock, and he is so fun to watch. And every Buffalo fan on the planet season stomach dropped whenever he said he wanted to get traded. Obviously, is in training camp and everything's good, and him and Josh Allen are all good going forward, but that he wanted to get traded almost makes me think he's going to get the ball more than he did last year. So if you're looking fantasy, Stephon Diggs is easily a top 5 wide receiver. Honestly, this year, probably top 3 wide receiver.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's also number 5 for me. I'm really curious to see how our top 5 rolls out because number 6 and number 5 have been the same, and there's only a couple guys left. So I completely agree. I mean, I'm going back to like the mental aspect of the game. I mean, imagine you're Stephon Diggs and you're in that Minnesota offense, and you want to trade because you think you're better. You think you're better than what's been given to you, at this stage in your career. And he takes a chance on himself. He goes to Buffalo, who doesn't have a number 1 and has a questionable receiver or a questionable quarterback at Josh Allen at the time. And he absolutely elevates this team. And I mean, he makes them Super Bowl contenders. Granted, they haven't been to a Super Bowl, but I would say every year that they're in the playoffs, they have a chance to get there, right? And that's because of Stephon Diggs. That's because he is him, as he says, But Stephon Diggs, he just is electric on the field. It's kind of like that CD conversation we were talking about, how he just elevates the play of his receivers around him. I mean, Gabe Davis, like no one expected him to have that crazy game, but he's still on my list as an honorable mention, Stephon Diggs, amazing receiver in the NFL. He's top 5, and he's been doing it for a while now. And I just don't see a world where he isn't top 5. He's so good.
And Buffalo got better in the draft with the best tight end being taken at the end of the first round with them too. So now he gets to come up and take more looks. So Stephon Diggs is probably going to be open a little bit more too. Same with Gabe Davis. So exciting times in Buffalo, you know what I mean? And Stephon Diggs, man, always got to shout out Maryland, the Terps. Some of the best jerseys back in like early 2000s, dude, or not early 2000s, 2010 to like 2010. Oh my goodness. They had some sick jerseys back in the day. Yeah, I mean, Stephon Diggs, right? We've said it everything. He's the guy there. There's a reason that he is a top 5 wide receiver in this league, and he's going to continue to be for however many seasons he decides to continue to play. Jumping to number 4, you go ahead and take it, Tanner.
My number 4, I hate that I put him in this spot because I really think he's one of the best receivers, if not the best. But he doesn't deserve the number 4 spot. But it's Cooper Kupp. It's not like Justin Jefferson or anything. It's Cooper Kupp. He's number 4, and the only reason he's at 4 is because he basically missed like the entire season. with an injury and the Rams just not being that good. There's no reason to bring him back early or anything like that. But I don't know what it's going to happen next year. That's the biggest thing. I don't know what's going to happen for the Rams offense. I don't know how good they're even going to be. But with that season where they won the Super Bowl, he had the Triple Crown. He had the most like receptions, yards, and I think what was the other thing? Touchdowns. Yes. And I mean, it's Cooper Kupp. Like he just came. He's one of the hardest working NFL receivers. You're gonna see it. He's been in the NFL for a while, and he didn't get his due respect until recently, right? He's been in the Rams for a long time, or he's been in the NFL for a long time, and now you're starting to see it. And I don't know. I hate putting him at 4 because I really respect the guy, and I just think everyone else above him was a player this season, and you have to put him above him. But Cooper Kupp, absolutely one of the fastest dudes. That's not Tyreek Hill on the planet. And he's going to get his cake and eat it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Not my number 4 wide receiver. I think we switched. Probably our number 3 and number 4 is what I'm guessing. But I mean, it's hard to argue Cooper Kupp, being a number 4 wide receiver in this league. Yes, the injury last year, I totally get that. He didn't. I'm not saying I'm glad he got injured, but I'm glad he decided not to play last year because the Rams were just brutal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, but the guy that gets a Triple Crown like that, I have to. I'm going to put him above my number 4. But the thing with Cooper Kupp, man, I don't know how he does what he does. I have no idea how he does it, but he is easily the best run blocking wide receiver in the entire NFL. I don't really know if that counts much to a lot of folks, but he is. And his willingness to do the dirty work and his willingness to do everything not only gets his teammates into that mindset too, but like the dude's a Super Bowl champ for a reason. He was the best wide receiver in the league that year, and they won a Super Bowl because of him. They put the team on his back, and he continued to perform. And when I see a guy do what he did in the regular season and elevate his play more playoffs, I get it. It's been a year. And on that last season, you know what I mean? Because I can't. You know what I mean? I can't. But Cooper Kupp, man, is such a good, sound wide receiver you would want on your football team if you were starting a franchise tomorrow. You know what I mean? My number 4. The thing with Davante Adams.
Say that again. Say that again.
Davante Adams is my number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my number 4. So the thing with Davante Adams for me, the only reason he's not above Cooper Kupp is because, it sounds crazy. Davante Adams is so good and has had such a quiet 1,000-yard season, but for some reason the Raiders just don't excite me. So, for some reason they just don't. And
I agree.
The fact that Davante Adams had the season he had last year on receiving yards and dominated, and it was quiet is very scary.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's very scary. But the only reason he is number 4, not higher, is because I think the Raiders hair is holding him back. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just like he had his guy in Derek Carr. Now his guy's not there. They have a Jimmy Garoppolo who realistically I don't think is an upgrade from Derek Carr. It's like the exact same player almost. But I don't know, man. And Josh Jacobs, it seems to me that Josh Jacobs is going to be a little bit more featured in that offense because of what he did, being the top rusher in the NFL. So that's kind of why I'm leaning on him, not over Cooper Kupp on my list. But I still got to give Davante Adams a respect. The quietest 1,200-yard season last year and continues to get better every single year. And he's had so many 1,000-yard seasons. He has 9,000 receiving yards in the league, and that is ridiculous. That's my number 4. And like I said, my number 3 is Cooper Kupp. So Tanner, is your number 3 Davante Adams?
My number 3 is Davante Adams. And, I think when it comes to with the comparison between Cooper Kupp and Davante Adams is you see with Cooper Kupp, he's kind of steadily got better and better and better and better throughout the years when he was in the NFL. And, eventually he peaked, he got the Triple Crown. He's the best receiver in the NFL and everyone knows it. There's no reason, no debate regardless. But like you go and look at like Devontae Adams, he's been doing this for a while. He's consistently getting these crazy seasons. Like I looked up his stats. I mean, the dude has gotten over 1,300 yards the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons, except for one. And that season was because, I think he got injured or something. So it's like, it's hard to put Cooper Kupp above him. I know Cooper Kupp is amazing, and I know he's so good, and I know he just had probably one of the best seasons of all time next to like Megatron. But Devontae Adams is consistent, and he does it all the time. He's done it for the past 4 or 5 years, and he's consistent. That's like the biggest thing I think in the top receivers is consistency. And I mean, this year he was really good. He got like 1,500 yards. I'm looking at it right now, 14 touchdowns and 100 receptions. And that's with Derek Carr as your quarterback. And that was a bad Derek Carr season too. Like, I mean, you could say that Aaron Rodgers made Devontae Adams, sure. But I think Devontae Adams was still, at the time when he was in Green Bay, one of the best route runners, one of the best hands in the NFL. And
He's one of the best wide receivers in the league.
Just period.
Not gonna
Yes.
take that away from him.
And then,
Period.
and now, I still think he is. I still think he's top 3. I don't think there's any reason to think he's not. But with Cooper Kupp, it's hard to say that he had a falling off because he got injured, But with him not putting up, nearly the type of stats that he did, I mean, it just leaves room for Devontae Adams to continue to be consistent and continue to be the player that he's always been. So that's why I have been number 3. I just respect the hell out of him, and I respect the hell out of him for doing what he's doing for the past, however long. So
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. And number 2. This is interesting right here. I have a feeling
there's no way
that it's the same. I have a feeling
it has
the same.
It has to be the same.
Who is your number 2?
My number 2 is Tyreek Hill.
Okay, Tyreek Hill, the Miami Dolphins wide receiver. Same here. Mm-hmm. Just making sure. I was gonna say we're gonna talk for another 4 hours, and you need to tell me exactly why number 1 is not number 1. But Tyreek Hill, away, just take it away. On with this one.
Tyreek Hill. I mean, the immediate example you have to go to is nobody said he was going to be anything when he left the Chiefs. Everyone said that Patrick Mahomes made Tyreek Hill what he was because, his, like we talked about earlier, his ability to throw the deep ball and him getting open down the field. Well, people, guess what? He had 2 of this past season, and he put up like even better stats than he did when he was in Kansas City. I mean, Tyreek Hill is a freak. He's so fast. You haven't seen anything like him in the NFL. Probably one of the fastest players in NFL history, and the ability to use that speed to his advantage every single play of every single football game is amazing. I mean, there's no one else in the NFL who can do it. That's why he's top 2. He's not number 1 for a couple of reasons. In that those reasons are just Justin Jefferson is the best, and that he's number 1. Spoiler alert, but it's Tyreek Hill. I mean, you have to put 3 people on him. If you're going to have to, double cover him, and then he's going to get safety help too because he's probably going to beat those guys. There's no one who can like go toe to toe with him in the NFL as a cornerback. There's just no one fast enough. He's a game-breaking player, and that's why he's up here.
And usually when you have a guy that is as fast as him, he lacks hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not Cheetah. You know what I mean? Cheetah does not lack hands at all. He has some of the best hands in the NFL, and it's unbelievable to watch him not only burn wide receivers, some nice route running. His footwork, goodness, because of how fast he is. His footwork is probably the most fun in the NFL to watch for me, just because him off the line, he's my favorite player off the line. Devontae Adams is right there, so is CeeDee. Tyreek Hill off the line, that quick shuffle step when he goes, you have no idea what way he's going, and I'm so glad that I'm not a cornerback or an opposing defense against this man, because it's one of those things where when you play Tyreek Hill, you go, we're going to try him to 100 yards and a touchdown. We're going to try to limit him to that. That's what we're going to try to limit him to that, because he's going to get more than that. Mm-hmm. And if you don't game plan for him and don't put 2-3 people on, like Tanner said, and I completely agree, going to burn you. And he's been doing it for the past 5 years, and he's going to continue to do it until he's done with his contract. So absolutely has to be number 2 on this list. Can't be number 1 because number 1, Tanner just said it, is Justin Jefferson, right? Also, the best young wide receiver in the league, Jamar Chase, number 2, like I said, best young wide receiver wise. But with Tyreek Hill here, two, Justin Jefferson finishes out the list, number 1 wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. So, say about this guy, you know what I mean? You really, nobody saw Randy Moss 2.0 coming out of LSU at that pick in the draft. You know what I mean? And that high in the draft, that teens in the draft. You know what I mean? And he comes in and does what he does. Not only the most exciting player in the NFL, he's arguably the most exciting receiver I've watched since a guy that Tanner mentioned earlier with Megatron. Megatron's my favorite receiver, potentially of all time, behind maybe Michael Irvin, but person's going to be up there when it's all said and done because where he looks like he's jogging. He's wide open down the field in Burns corners. I don't understand it. He doesn't do anything great. He does everything perfect. Mm-hmm. He doesn't do everything. It's perfect. That's why he's a number 1 wide receiver in this league and how young he is. His rookie year coming out of the league, and you're like, there's no way he did that. Like, there's no way he had over 1,000 yards his rookie season. Did that. No way, right? No way. Well, he did. And every year it's gone up and up and up and up. And guess who holds the record? I'm pretty sure it's Randy Moss. So it may be fitting for Justin Jefferson to break that one, but you have to put him number 1 in this list. Cousins is throwing to him. Played against him in Washington for a very long time. Kirk Cousins does not elevate the play of his wide receivers. He also does not win you games. He goes out there and just throws the rock to Justin Jefferson. So, Jefferson number 1 to finish off the list. Tanner, why is he your number 1?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of like specific things about him that I find really cool. It's like we talked about, how he stands on the line and how he has like this kickoff off the line and stuff like that. And I saw a little video or an interview or whatever, and what they started doing in this Minnesota offense, especially with Justin Jefferson, is they would implement like almost like basketball type crossovers at the line because it works so well in the NBA. Why can't it work in the NFL? It's the same kind of situation. You're staring down someone and trying to get around them without them predicting that you're going to go that way. So he does that at the line. I mean, he acts like he has a literal basketball in his hands, and he will like put it through his legs and stuff like that, and cross over someone with like an invisible basketball. And he gets off the line, he beats you, and then guess what? He's got one of the best hands in the NFL, one of the best speeds in the NFL, and one of the best route running abilities in the NFL. So just like you said, he's perfect in almost every avenue. And with that, the offensive scheme that they're running, the one that the Rams won the Super Bowl off of, it was almost like watching him this past year he was open every time. And if you were a fan of the opposing team that Minnesota was playing, it was almost like, what are we doing? Like, why aren't we covering him? It's Justin freaking Jefferson. Like, why is he open? The answer is he's open because the route that he's running is just better than the defense that you're running, and he's running it to perfection. So he's going to be open in the perfect spot, in the perfect timing with his quarterback every single time. I mean, you said it with Kirk Cousins. The Kirk Cousins does not elevate the play of his receivers. The only reason that Minnesota team was amazing was because Justin Jefferson. I mean, they had to throw him the ball at least 12 times. If you were to go back and look at the stats, he probably had over 10 receptions a game, probably like 13 out of the 17 games that they played. I would that's my guess, but like that's just it. I mean, the offense runs through him, and it's amazing because they give him the ball out of the backfield, right? Not like a handoff, but like a little screen dump and pass or something like that, and he runs after the catch and he makes plays and makes yards. And I don't know, man. There's a lot to say about him. He's just so good, so good. He's so young.
He's so young. He's so good. And you said it. He checks every single box, right? And
yeah.
To end it all off, you know what I mean? It's a prototypical wide receiver, like we were talking about building the perfect wide receiver. That's kind of the reason I brought it up earlier in the episode. And you have things in wide receivers. You have hands, you have body frame, you have speed, you have route running ability, you have quickness, you have get off the line. That's kind of sort of quickness, but not the same. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Justin Jefferson, like we said, not only checks all of those boxes, but is perfect in all of those boxes. And there's a reason young wide receiver this young is continuing to dominate the league. It's because he's just that good.
He's just that good.
that's the end of it. And we're going to be ranking more NFL players. We're going to be talking more sports next week. But Tanner, so this was a fun wide receiver rankings. I'm really glad we broke it up over 2 episodes. It would have been over probably 3 hours, 4 hours. So let's do it again next week, dude.
Heck yeah. See you next week.